And so, the Siege Cascade saga has come to an end. This build was pretty much nuked into the oblivion of PoE 2, and I'm talking about single target damage. Patch 0.11 pretty much gutted all the interactions of Siege Cascade with pretty much any skill in the games. We have Vine Arrow, which is gone, Frostwall, Ice Wall is gone, and not in the patch, but Toxic Growth is gone, Shieldwall is gone, and even Glacial Bolt, Ice Wall is also gone. So I'll talk about it a little bit later, but I think it's pretty much a bad decision from the company to completely kill the skills. The Vine Arrow I kinda understand, although they could put a limit to it. The Frostwall or even Glacial Bolt, Ice Wall is a little bit too much. Honestly, I feel like they are out of touch with the games when labeling this as a bug fix, but stuff like Lightning Conduit consuming double shock charge is allowed to exist. But anyway, this is not that kind of video, so I just want to say I really like the Siege Cascade skill, and I'll tell you that it's an amazing mapping skills. As you can see in the background here, I'm doing a T16 Delirious Bridge map to kind of showcase that. But yeah, single target damage is gone, so we are relegated once again to be using shopless rounds, and let's talk about the changes after the patch. Let's take a look at all the interaction that was working before but now no longer work. So we have in here Vine Arrow. So Vine Arrow was the first thing that they nerfed, and it kind of makes sense. It was a little bit too OP. They could have, again, like I said, limited this ability. But yeah, it's no longer working here. Then we have Toxic Growth, which was not documented, and it was working before. But yep, they also got this one too, so this one is not working as well. Then we have Frostwall, which I thought was not OP at all, but Siege Cascade still destroy the Frostwall, but it does not target the Frostwall, so no overlapping whatsoever. And we have Shieldwall, which will require shields. This in, and then yeah, Shieldwall also was working before. Siege Cascade targeted the shields, but now it destroyed the shield, but it doesn't target. So once again, pretty much all the interactions related to targeting is nerfed or gutted, which kind of makes sense because it specifically say in the game that it only targets enemies. However, if they really play the skills and want to make the skill work, they could change the wording as well, keeping the interactions, at least for Glacial Bolt, right? It's part of the crossbow skill. I thought it kind of makes sense for Siege Cascade to combo with this. I play PoE because of the cool interactions of skills. It's not just stat stackings to the end game, right? Because that's PoE 1, and they said the vision is different. For what it's worth, at higher level of investment, it should still work for the end game. So technically, the build will still be fine after the change with some adjustment to the single target damage, but it will no longer feel the same. For the first options that I'm going to give you, it's going to be Siege Cascade with Shockburst round. And for this particular options, the setups is going to be Ball Lightning Warps, and Shockburst round. We also have Voltaic Mark as well, and I drop all the other auras to kind of run double Cursed Aura with Temporal Chains and Conductivity, so it's a little bit more expensive. The Shopless round is not really new, so you would shoot Ball Lightning, use Lightning Warp, create Shock rounds, and when you have Shock rounds on, using Shopless round on the single target damage is going to trigger the pulse part of the Shopless round, which do a lot of damage. And this means that for this single target damage setups, you can run Conk Effect, Bullseye, I'll talk about Bullseye later, Elemental Focus, Close Combat, and I guess for the 6th link, you can run Fresh Clip. It's less good on this setup because I'm using Rampant Raptors, which means that every time you reload, you would have 4 seconds of shootings without consuming any bullets, which means that it will be a little bit harder to trigger the Fresh Clips. You can also take out a gems and put it back in, and it will automatically reload, but anytime you reload, you do 26 more damage. It's too clunky to be practical though, so yeah, this is the setups, and you don't have to do any gem swaps, but if you do want to use gem swaps, you can put on Martial Temples instead of Bullseye, Primal Armament, Lightning Infusions. Those are the better damage link for Shopless round. For ball lightning, you can run accelerations, arcane temples, scatter shots, lightning warps with overcharge, expanse, voltaic mark as well with lightning masteries. So lightning warps and ball lightning, you want to make sure that they are on the second hand. Also for voltaic mark as well, you want to cast this first in your rotation. So when you are in crossbow shootings, you want to cast this, it automatically do a weapon swaps. Then you do ball lightning, cast shock rounds to benefits from the increased effect of shock on mark enemy. And lightning warp shock round lasts for a whole 31 seconds, so that's pretty good. It's benefits from all the skill effect durations, time freeze, because we are using the Crest of Adrua as well. It's going to have a really short cooldown of only 26 seconds. So yeah, this is going to be pretty much the setups for the Siege Cascade and Shockburst round for single target damage. And for the second setups, I'm using Lightning Rod, Orb Storms, and Cast on Shock. So the idea is that you put down Lightning Rod, you cast Orb Storms using Chain Togethers, and will shock the boss, creating a lot of the ball lightning, which will also shotguns on top of these things. So yeah, this is a pretty popular setup for lightning arrow, so I won't go into the details, but my recommended setups for mapping at least is Lightning Rod with Conk Effect, Bullseye, Close Combat, Lightning Exposures, and the Siege Cascade have the best damage link. If you want to have more boss damage, you can swap Lightning Infusion down, Primo Elements for Close Combat, Martial Temple for Bullseye, so this will be the best damage link. But yeah, it's for mapping, it's kind of clunky, so I'll just kind of keep it like what it is right now. And for Orb of Storm, I have in Chain, Overabundance, Unleash, Arcane Temple, pretty much just to help put down 2 Orb of Storm on top of the boss, because they chain off lightning rods. Cast on Shocks with Ball Lightning, Decelerations, Scatter Shots, and Inspirations. You'll be casting a lot of these ball lightning, and they will also shotgun on top, so that's the idea behind the single target damage. You also run Voltaic Mac as well, and everything else is pretty much the same. I have Cast on Shock specifically set up on the second weapon set, which is the Death Haps dual string bow here. Make sure that whenever you swap to bow, the setup that you are running is the same, so Blasphemy and Cast on Shock. Green Feast and Herald Thunder will be turned off, and yeah, you just need to make sure that Herald Thunder is on this first on the weapon set 1, and then Green Feast is also on weapon set 1, and Blasphemy is set up for both weapons, so that should be it. Between the two setup of Shockburst round and Lightning Rod, I would probably go with Shockburst round just because it fits better into the passive skill trees. It being using the crossbow, I can fit it into the weapon set 1 skill trees and focus on the skill effect durations for the weapon set 2, which are using the shields and 1 setup. However, if you really want the lightning rod setups, you could also make some adjustments to the trees. You could put Siege Cascade on weapon set 2, which not going to be benefits from all the lightning damage, but if you have enough damage, Siege Cascade just going to kill all the monster all the same. At higher investment with Morio Invictus of Spirits and increased attribute, which is extremely expensive, and Engineered Belt with better rings, then I think both setups should be able to do pinnacle contents without any problem, because once again, it's stat stackings. But yeah, let's quickly show you the side-by-side comparisons of the skills, and then you can make the decision yourself. So yeah, you can see that's the current damage at the current setups. It's nowhere the same. It's not going ever to be the same as Siege Cascade, so it is what it is. And with higher investment, you can still push the setup for pinnacle content. But for me personally, this is as far as I'm going to take the build. Now I will cover the changes that I made to the passive skill trees and quickly talk about the gear as well, since we are kind of showcasing 2 setups here. So for the lightning rod setups, I'm using the Death Haps dual string bow. Ideally, you would get a corruptions for additional arrows, but at the increased attack speed is fine. I'm still using the same quivers. Again, so I'm not pushing for any pinnacle content here, and this quiver is more than enough. You could get a much better one with more lightning damage and more damage to bow skills. For the Shockburst round setups, I am using a 1. Doesn't really matter what. I just put in more cast speed and a shields. And the shields have increased cooldown recovery rate, which means that you are going to get a faster cooldown recovery on your time freeze. And for the passive skill trees, the first change I made was to add the control metamorphosis diamond jewel here. And this jewel rolls from the very small to massive ring, and it only affects passive in that area, so you want the large roll. And this means you can allocate Falcon technique and proficiency with only 2 points. And the rest of the point, you save 4 points, and they will go into Falcon dive, which is why I'm using bullseye support here, because if you add more accuracy rating, it can cover for the loss of martial tempo, so you don't have to do the weapon swap. And also Siege Cascade will benefit from having a little bit more attack speed as well, because we have some increased accuracy rating here. And I also have increased accuracy rating on the 2 emerald jewels that I add to the build. So Siege Cascade, normally you would have about 1.1 second of reload time. This is because the crossbow have 30% reduced reload speed, so we kind of counteract that with a 20% crossbow reload speed roll on the emerald jewels. So you need about 2 of this to make the build feels a lot smoother during mapping when you are using Siege Cascade. And on this jewel, you want to look for accuracy rating, you want to look for lightning damage. Increased attack speed is good as well. Same thing here, lightning damage, accuracy rating, increased attack speed, and make sure that the increased crossbow reload speed is 20%. Like I mentioned before, the weapon set 2, we are using the same settings, so if you are using lightning rod setups, you kind of don't benefit too much from all these skill effect durations. I did make some minor change to make sure that both weapon kind of benefits from the setups, at least for the lightning rod one. So the full setup will be on the written guide, the full trees will be up there as well for you to take a look at. And yeah, so this is pretty much the current setup that I am running for all the other jewels. It's exactly the same. And that's it for all the changes of the passive skills and gear. If you're still here, great. Let's talk about the future of Siege Cascade, because I really like this build in particular. I think it's a great clearing skill, as you can see here. I'm doing a typical map that I usually farm for Breach, and usually I also put Delirious Layer on here. This build can clear that without issues, but because I'm recording and it can cause some lag, so I didn't do it. This particular setup should be able to clear any kind of maps, any kind of layouts without much issues. And I'm kind of showcasing doing this on a medium budget gears. Like, I don't have ingenuity, I don't really push for more expensive gears because it's not too relatable. I want to make sure that this skill functionally works at a low level of gear, so it can only get better as you scale better into the end game. So yeah, Breach, really satisfying clear. You basically just spam Siege Cascade and everything should die, including rare. The monster around you are slow, they're also attacking slower, and this is why I feel like defensively this build is great. This build does not feel squishy at all due to this layer of defense. You need a little bit of time to ramp up your energy shields and everything should be fine after that. With my current gears, I only have about 4k energy shields, and you can see that I can just run straight into pack without any issues. Obviously in maps with more dangerous mod and more dangerous rare, you could always hit time freeze and you should be able to kill that pack without any problem. As a mapping skill, Siege Cascade feels great. If there were only a way to make the skill interacts for single target damage, that would be nice as well. I'm not sure why is it not really in the visions of GG. I feel like they are missing such a cool interactive skills over here. This is definitely comparable with any meta skills out there, at least for clearing and mapping in general. I know a lot of people, including me, have a lot of fun playing this build the past 4 or 5 days, so it was kind of a bummer that the patch note kind of fixed this out of nowhere, labeling this as bug fix. Obviously, it's a bug, and I know I'm coping a little bit here, but if GG could come back to the skill, say, hey, the interaction was cool, let's revert the change, but let's not make it too OP. You could put a limit on it, make it usable at least for bossing, and everything will be good. I might come back to the skills. Even if they make Glacial Bolt, Ice Wall interact with Siege Cascade, we could do some really nice combo as well, so there's that. And yeah, so only the boss left. Like I said, I am doing the Shockburst round because I think it's a lot better. It fits better with the skill trees. I kind of like the optimizations here. Let me just quickly lightning whip over the wall here. Okay, yeah. Yeah, my goal with the game pretty much in early access is to play as many builds as I can. I want to interact with all the mechanics, learn about the games, learn about all the ascendancies and classes. And oops, I kind of missed the combo there. You would open with casting Voltaic Mark on the boss, create shock rounds and time freeze, and then you would open with Shockburst round. Whenever you run out of ammo, you would use emergency reloads. I feel like this setup would be okay to do pinnacle bossing with. However, you cannot skip all the mechanics, you have to do mechanics, and it can be kind of messy. And this will be it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed this setup, and I will see you in the next one.